didn't see, just to go down the list of people that I wrote down yesterday. One of the kickers, Blake Hobble, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. A.J. Brown, still working through his rehabilitation process. Former wide receiver 2. We'll see if Julio Jones can't usurp him. Nick Westbrook-Akina, not available to the Titans yesterday. Caleb Farley, Christian Fulton, Maurice Smith, Bud Dupree. No Jayon Brown, no Monty Rice. I did not see Aaron Brewer, Ty Sambrailo. Taylor Lewan was not on the practice field, but he was in the facility because he came out to tell me how much weight I've gained. And then walked back in with a smirk on his face. So glad to see that he's in good spirits. For whatever weight that I've gained, he's lost, by the way. He looks so much physically different than he does during football season. And I wonder what the process for an offensive lineman to kind of put that weight back on looks like. Because you see this all the time, not to get sidetracked, but you see this all the time with guys like Joe Thomas or Marshall Yanda after these big, bulky, blocky offensive linemen after they retire. They just look like regular human beings outside of being 6'5" or 6'6". Juan looks more like a tight end right now than he does a left tackle. So whatever I found, it's weight that he's lost. But the thing that made me stop and watch basically all during practice yesterday, the thing non-Julio Jones division, was Janoris Jenkins, man. That dude has so much energy, so much life that he kind of breathes into those practices because he is hyper-aggressive, I think, is an understatement. Janoris Jenkins, he's got a reputation. He's got a long career at this point in the league, playing at a high level for several different teams between the Rams, the Giants, last couple of years, the Saints, before he lands here in Tennessee. And at 32 years old, there's a lot of questions, just like Julio. A lot of questions about how much players in that stage, in that phase of their careers, how much they have left. It's one minicamp practice. And so I should not sell out, I guess, entirely for what I saw from Janoris yesterday. But what I saw excited me. What I saw set an example for the rest of the players on the field. So much so, honestly, that Mike Vrabel spoke to that as well. Here was the head coach after the first day of mandatory minicamp talking about what he's looking for from his secondary, from his defensive backs specifically, and why Janoris Jenkins is a good example.
Well, I think what we want our DBs to do is not let their man catch the ball in man coverage and play with great vision and break in zone coverage. That's what we want him to do. Janoris has shown that throughout his career. Love his energy as a player. It's fun to coach. A smile on his face, and he loves football. Okay. I think that guys that have done it at a high level in this league, are great resources for younger players, for coaches to have conversations with and try to help. And I think Janoris will be certainly one of those guys.
Titans head coach Mike Vrabel talking with the media yesterday. The energy is different this year. I don't know how to describe it, but Lucas and I, we were talking about this in the green room. By the way, Lucas, good morning. Hello, how are you?
Good morning. I am well.
Are you so locked in on Euro soccer that you are not participating yet this morning?
No, there's no game happening right now. Finland and Russia has concluded. It will be Turkey-Wales coming up at 11, and then Italia playing Switzerland at 2.
Is that why you're decked out in your soccer shirt?
I am wearing my Milan jersey, yes.
Very nice. Anyway, so the energy at practice right now, I guess it's not technically practice. The energy throughout the course of this offseason, it's different. There's never been a time, at least in my time here in Nashville, where there's been this much excitement around the Titans. I don't think necessarily in my, I don't want to say my lifetime, because obviously I was alive during the Super Bowl run when they went with Steve McNair and Eddie George and that horrific loss to the Rams, the way that it ended with just a knife in your all's side.
Yeah, but how conscious were you of football at that time?
I was not conscious at all of
Me
football, nor anything. I was barely. Are you potty trained at 3 years old? I feel like not.
I have no idea. I don't even know if you're talking or walking by 3 years old. I have no concept of what it takes to raise a child.
It's good that you don't have that responsibility on your plate. I too have zero idea about what age is normal for people to start, using the facilities properly. This is my thing with children. You can't reason with them. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to defecate. They don't know how to talk to you efficiently. This is why they drive me crazy. Anyway, don't get me distracted, Lucas. Damn it. We had a coherent thought. But for the energy at practice, it is cool to see. Lucas and I were talking about this in the green room. It's cool to see a football team that's as hype about what's going on around them as the fan base is. And I think Jackrabbit, as he prefers to be called, Janoris Jenkins, he brings that kind of juice. Julio Jones's presence has that effect across the board. There has never been this much energy around the local professional football team. They feel it, you feel it, we feel it. It makes all the difference in the world. Buck's Adderall medication says, need some? Yes, probably. Probably. I think I wonder if I do need an Adderall prescription. Like not to get into personal prescriptions on the air, but I wonder if because I've never been prescribed anything, and I'm clearly, out of my mind with ADD and ADHD and all manner of other crap that makes it, honestly, the only reason that I can do this job this way is because of my ADD, because there's a million moving parts during a live radio show, and it's the only way that I can keep up, even if it sounds like I'm, running all over the place. But yes, Buck's Adderall medication in the comments on Twitch. Hit me up. The plug in the Twitch comments. I really enjoy the environment that you're sensing from the Titans right now. At this stage, when there's not a lot, it's tough. Any of you who played high school football know what kind of slog it is to go out, or any level of football, whether you played in college, whether you were D2, whether as far as you went in organized high school football was high school, you know what a slog summer conditioning and summer workouts are. They were the worst. They're good for team building activities because at least you're miserable together and you create those bonds. But it is cool to see the enthusiasm that the Titans are showing right now in the same way that kind of mirrors what the fan base is feeling around them. It doesn't always go that way.
Yeah, they want to be there, right?
They seem to want to be there. Julio Jones and Ryan Tannehill, now it's mandatory for them to be there. Otherwise, there's fines. But during the voluntary portion, they seem to want to be here. They recognize their window. They recognize what they've been put in position to do. And that's the kind of energy that they're giving off on the practice field, which can only mean good things as we carry this in. Now, at some point, of course, during training camp, it's going to lag because that's miserable. You're in the middle of July. It's oppressively humid outside. It feels like Nashville, Tennessee feels like a sauna. And then a reminder, they go to Tampa for a couple of weeks, basically at the end of July, early August. That's not easy to do. So how they maintain that is going to be on them. But at this point, these are the kinds of things that you're looking for, how they're working together now that the rookies and veterans have been integrated amongst each other. At this point, a lot of things seem to be going the way that you would anticipate or the way that you would want them to if you're a fan of this team, looking at them and saying, okay, are they feeling this the same way that I am? Are they prepared to live up to the expectations that people have set for them? I think that's something. Energy is something that we talked to Coach Mack about. It's like momentum, right? It's not quantifiable. It's just this mystical, magical NFL cliche that we use all the time. But when you recognize it when you see it, and that's, I think, what the sense that a lot of the media and a lot of the team, the coaches, we've talked to the players as well on Zoom, understandably, but it seems like that is permeating everything that they do right now. Lebowski says on Twitch, 100% feels different this year. Clowney went out of his way to miss all of the offseason. Beasley was picking up trucks and musing starting a church while Wilson was wrecking cars on his way to a 4-minute rap career. Yes, that is summed up efficiently.
The vibes are different.
All right. I was looking throughout the entire course of that segment a way to avoid saying the word vibes.
You're welcome.
Because I've taken a stance against that. No, not you're welcome. Hell out of here. When we come back, though, I want you guys, because there's a lot of stuff that is going on right now, and this is the last week that we'll see them for some time, understanding that the NFL is getting ready to take its summer vacation after mandatory minicamps break. there are a lot of guys that you're seeing right now out on the practice field. You're going to hear from one of the guys that you aren't coming up next, Bud Dupree. I want to know from the audience, because I think there are a great many players that they are interested in seeing at this point that are not available to them. Between A.J. Brown, Caleb Farley, Bud Dupree, Taylor Lewan, among the biggest of those names. Which player are you most excited or who you most want back out on the practice field as soon as possible? I'm not saying that we're going to see them. Today would be the last day because they're not practicing tomorrow, according to Mike Vrabel. But who are you most anxious to get back out there among the players who are not currently available? Because we've seen the guys who are, but I want to know how you feel about the guys who aren't yet visible to the public and to the media. We'll talk about that coming up next, and we'll get into a conversation about Bud Dupree, what he had to say after mandatory minicamp yesterday, all that and more. Coming up next, I'm Buck Rising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
JMart and Ramon. You don't wake up early? Here's what you missed.
What do you expect? Because if it's not what you expect, with the amount of money that's paid out, it's an ever-changing league. The NFL means not for long, not just for the players, or for coaches too.
Jason Martin and Ramon Foster. Tomorrow morning starting at 6 on 104.5 The Zone.
is going to happen today. It's day one. Lot to take from. Now, there wasn't anything. I gave you my biggest, the biggest thing that stood out to me, non-Julio Jones division, but, you're always going to have something to say about Julio. Julio! There he is. You can't watch him all day you could, but it would make me neglectful in my duties for covering the whole of the team to just sit there and salivate over what Julio Jones is doing at practice at any given day. Yesterday, what the main thing that I saw from him was, there's this picture going around on the internet at this point that Donald Page, their team photographer, took, and it was during a light drill. It's part of the portion that media, well, I should say non-team media, are not allowed to film and photograph, but of course the team employees can do that because, the rules are different. That's fine. Such is life. But it's during a light, end zone, corner of the end zone, making catches in the back of the end zone drill. There's probably a more efficient way to describe it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Just quarterbacks throwing to receivers, hanging out in the back of the end zone, practicing. They're continuing to rep things out together. So DeShone Kizer is throwing passes at this particular moment and throws one pretty far above Julio Jones's head. By the way, future Titans backup quarterback, DeShone Kizer, we should say. I'm pretty entrenched in that position, Lucas, the more that I watch him. So Kizer kind of throws one high, and Julio, I'm telling you, easily 3 foot off the ground, just skies like a damn pterodactyl in the air, blots out the sun because he goes up one hand, snags this thing, brings it down with one paw. But, I'm telling you, he landed so hard on his back, I would have cut Kizer right then and there. If Julio Jones would have gotten hurt, I'd have sent him packing. Get out. Without question, if Julio Jones had come up, with any kind of ailment. But he pulls this ball in, he comes crashing down, he hits the ground hard, whole place goes quiet. Like the media, the training staff, the equipment people, the coaches, the players, everybody's just looking at the corner of this end zone on the first field, not the third field, because you know that I'm not allowed to look at the third field. But he got up, he was fine, everybody, you just hear this sigh of relief. It was like anytime Marcus Mariota made a dive at the end zone. That's what it kind of felt like, where everybody, your butt cheeks just clench because you're tight. You're looking at this thing. Anybody who's got any kind of investment in the Titans is looking at this thing, this massive investment that they've just made, and hoping, dear God, let him get up off the ground. Tannehill, when he came down awkwardly, I think
it was the Bills game.
One finger roll celebration where he just kind of planted funny on the foot that he came down on, and you're just like, oh my God, don't do that ever again. Even though you love the finger roll. But yeah, everybody. If I'm Vrabel, I am bubble wrapping the hell out of Julio Jones today. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him anywhere near the practice field. I don't care if he's not hurt. Get inside. Don't do that again. Keep your feet physically on the ground until September the 12th. At that point, then you can start, making acrobatic catches through the air, flying through the sky, the way that we saw Julio Jones, the way that we have seen Julio Jones now through a couple of workouts at the Titans practice facility. The jet took off, says Drink More Water on Periscope. He 100% did, man.
Solar eclipse over St. Thomas Sports Park.
I'm telling you, he straight up blotted out the sun yesterday. And then he brought basically as he came down on his back, he brought literally the facility to its knees, hoping that he was okay. 615-737-1045. But it wasn't all the Julio show yesterday. And it's not even just about who was out on the practice field, because we talked to a variety of players. And if you want to get involved, 615-737-1045. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. It wasn't just about Julio Jones, because yesterday was the first time that we have had the opportunity to talk to Bud Dupree since he signed here. You saw the reported details of Bud. He came on the morning show with JMart Ramon, because, of course, him and Ramon Foster are former teammates. And then he did his media availability with us, I believe, the next day. So it's been been basically since what, April that we've talked to this guy. So in talking to Bud Dupree, obviously there's the answers about, or the questions about where he is in his rehabilitation process. That was what basically led off the conversation. So here is Bud Dupree, because everybody's asking for updates on Dupree, on Lewan, on A.J. Brown, and of course on Caleb Farley. But this is the latest on Bud Dupree from the horse's mouth.
Well, I'm recovering well. I'm on schedule. As far as when they'll let me practice and stuff, I really want to know. It's up to them to like decide how they want to do it, how they want to go forth with it. But on my end, I'm doing pretty good, and just taking it day by day. Just excited for the season ahead.
Yeah, but I know ACLs are fairly routine at this point in the NFL, but how big an impact of the people at Exos that you've been rehabbing with throughout the course of the offseason had on your ability to recover and kind of regain that kind of explosiveness?
Man, Exos did a great job, man. I can say that tremendously they did. The effort, the time that we put into it out there in Arizona, and then also in Atlanta too. They sent a group of guys to Atlanta for me, so I can be with my family down there. Man, it's just been a tremendous time the whole time. The recovery aspect of working it hard, but also taking care of my body to make sure I recover well. Hats off to them, man. The plan that they set forth for me, man, working tremendously, and I'm just excited about it.
That is Bud Dupree yesterday speaking with the Nashville media. He's in the building, as Ron Slay would say. We should just all four shows should have a Ron Slay in the building drop at this point.
You are right.
It cracks me up every time we go to break and I just hear him screaming in my ear, I'm in the building. I'm in the building.
Gets me every time.
I can't do it like he does. Nobody can do it like Ron Slay does. As he continues to accumulate bottles of alcohol in the studio. Do they like drink on air during 3HL, by the way? I'm looking at two, but I think one is bourbon. The other one, I think the other one's wine, but I can't
it's wine.
Tell. Either way, Ron Slay is just slowly creating a liquor cabinet at his seat in the 104.5 The Zone studios. But we'll get into more Bud Dupree content here in just a second. You'll hear more from Bud because I had a couple questions for him yesterday, and about how he's going to basically integrate himself with the team. And I thought Corey Curtis and there were a lot of good questions asked of Bud Dupree yesterday that we'll fill you in on here in just a second, but I want to get your involvement as well. 615-737-1045 is how you join the show. Evan is in Nashville. He wants to talk about the Titans. Go ahead, Evan.
What's up, Buck? Sounds like y'all got it, guys.
Oh, we lost him. Evan, are you there? Evan, okay, your phone line stinks. Are you with me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Go. My bad.
Okay, cool. So I don't know what that was. But anyway, just had a question. So, you got the whole Julio Jones falling on his back thing. And you always hear the saying players practice how they play. But then at the same time, you've got Tom Brady lobbying against OTAs on conference calls and all that stuff. So just basing off your experience, how do you think players toe that line? Is it more of just younger players versus veteran players who need the rest, who know what they're doing, so on and so forth? But how do they find that middle ground?
Hey, I appreciate the call, Evan. 615-737-1045. If you've got any questions, comments, or concerns as we talk Titans over the course of this morning. So, in fact, Lucas, do we have the Rob Moore clip about him talking about Julio Jones? How he basically has earned the right through 10 years in the league at this point, a decade, to have input on how he goes about practicing. Because Evan, I think this is really telling. I do think it's almost as simple. Now, it's not every case where it's a divide between veterans and rookies or younger players and veterans as to how they manage their body. But when you're somebody like Brady or Julio Jones or even Derrick Henry is starting to enter this kind of stratosphere, you get to have input on how you are managed throughout the course of the week, just as long as it gets you to Sunday.
I think, being at what he's done already and, thus far in his career, he's earned the right to, to kind of have some say in terms of how he does things. And I think, in the conversations I've had with him, and there haven't been very many yet, but we've kind of talked about that a little bit in terms of, how he'll progress through the rest of this mini camp and into training camp and how he'll get, how we'll prepare him, as we move forward with the regular season. But I think it'll be a kind of an open conversation. I'll give them some thoughts that I have, and we'll come to a resolution from there.
That's Titans wide receiver coach Rob Moore hanging out with the media on, what was that, Monday, talking about Julio Jones. So, Evan, it's kind of along that same vein. Now, there's different treatment for everybody, apparently, unless you're the Green Bay Packers and you just want to disrespect your future Hall of Fame quarterback in ways that are mind-numbingly stupid to me. By the way, that's a good tease for the dumbest thing in sports this week coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. But I think that players, and we'll have Will Compton on today as well. Will has, he's not, I love him to death. He's not a star player, but he is somebody who has made it in the league because of the mental acuity and because he understands how to manage himself physically. That, I think, is the biggest difference for guys who have prolonged careers in the NFL. Julio Jones famously, and we've had this discussion before, Julio Jones famously does not practice the last 2 years during the week. So what you're saying about guys play how they practice, rather, I'm sure there is some truth to that, and I'm sure this has evolved as we have found ways to better manage players physically, certainly in a sport like football, where it is so physical, it is so violent, where there is a 100% chance of injury. I mean, that's the case in almost any sport, but football more so than any other because of the violent collisions that are happening all over the field and the rate of speed at which these guys are flying around, just giant human beings smashing into each other. So what I would say to you is, yeah, it's probably closer to a case-by-case basis, but when you are the kind of player that we're talking about with Julio, yeah, you get to kind of dictate, maybe not dictate, but you get to have conversations with your superiors, for lack of a better term. And I honestly wouldn't even consider like Mike Vrabel, Julio Jones' superior. John Robinson is probably in a different class, but I look at the relationship between a guy like Mike and his players, or at least a coach who is willing to accept this role. Vrabel understands the position that he's in. He is there for a reason. He is the final say-so on the football side of things, the football coaching side of things. But I think what Mike really, really takes to his core, and it goes back to his time as a 14-year NFL vet, is that it's a symbiotic relationship. You have to find compromise with your players. You cannot treat it like a dictatorship. It can be closer to a dictatorship than maybe a form of democracy, but there is a better way to work through things diplomatically with your star players, the guys who matter the most, the guys who you're going to rely upon the most, guys like Julio Jones. So I think that's the line that they toe. Now, in the same vein, these guys, when you create these symbiotic relationships with them, and coaches Vrabel, by the way, Mike Vrabel will be on the radio show tomorrow at 11:30, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. And I'm sure I'll ask Mike about that. We get him before the rest of the media does, Lucas. So we'll I'm sure I can't imagine what it's like to tell Vrabel that he has two media obligations in the same day within an hour of each other. The good thing is we're getting first crack at him, so he can't huff and puff too much about that. But I think we got a fun environment around here. We'll see if we can't get Vrabel to have a little fun tomorrow. But to this extent, Vrabel talks about this a lot. He's not in the locker room with the guys. The locker room is the player's space. As a player himself, he recognizes that, he respects that. But in creating these diplomatic relationships with your players, you then look for your players or the guys who you entrust with this level of responsibility. You entrust those guys to be an extension of the head coach in the locker room, to continue to preach the message, the singular message that you're all working towards. And I think what you're seeing in guys like Julio Jones and another new addition, Bud Dupree, you're seeing the same kind of responsibility that is essential to have for a position group like, for example, the Titans' outside linebackers, where it has been, for the most part, outside of, the sporadic Clowney and Beasley experience, Harold Landry is the most veteran voice of those guys since Brian Arakpo and Derek Morgan departed Nashville. So Bud Dupree, in talking about this yesterday, I really think has the ability to impact it by attitude alone, because he's got a tremendous amount of pressure on him at this point, right? He's not available yet. He's just been paid a ton of money to come here and fix the most glaring problem on this team right now. It's the pass rush. And he could kind of dispel any additional pressure that he would put upon himself, or any additional pressure that the media would put on him, that the fan base would hold him to the expectation of. Because, you're going through the guy's wallet. You're going through the guy's bank account at a certain point. But instead of kind of shying away from it or dismissing it, I found it really telling that Bud Dupree, in his media availability with us yesterday, was more than willing to accept that responsibility publicly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team effort, but I'm a big part of that. Pressure bursts pipes or pressure creates a diamond. So, you got to take it at that standpoint. It's no secret. They got me here for that, to help out with the pass rush. And, I put it on my shoulder, and I wear that hat while I'm working out in the off season, while I'm rehabbing right now, getting my knee right. We all know what it is, and that's just part of the business of this game called football. So, I take it upon myself to make sure that I make an impact, and as well as bringing guys up with me, man. The guys who've been here the whole time, as well as teaching those guys stuff that I learned over the years, and learning stuff from those guys that I may not know. Doing different pass rush things along with different trainers and stuff, and just bringing that knowledge to them. And also, if they do something with somebody else, just bringing that knowledge together and constantly communicating on how we want to rush and how we want to be the unit. We want to make sure that we define ourselves before the season of what we want to be, and we have a clear vision and a clear goal of what we're working to, and that'll make things better, and then we'll have a path and we'll have milestones to hit, and that's how you build it.
Is there a pressure that comes with the money, or is it all just football?
To me, man, it comes with, you expect to get paid big your second contract. If you're working hard your first contract, you expect to hit the second contract and get paid. And with that doesn't mean you have to go out there and change who you are, because that's what got you paid. So, I just got to go out there and continue to produce like I have. And, and the bigger part of that is just not me producing, it's bringing someone else along to produce as well. So, and then once you're doing that, then it's all worth it.
If you're a Titans fan, you love that answer. That gives you all the feels. It's not a man running from expectation. He's embracing it, but also acknowledging in the same breath that it is his responsibility not just to produce, but to help elevate the guys around him. That is so critical to the building of this team with the designs that they have to go out and win a Super Bowl. We'll get into more of this on the other side. If you would like to weigh in, you are, of course, more than welcome. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Titans football, the passion that unites us all. Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
Barstool Sports HQ in New York City. I can't imagine he. Well, I don't know. Like, I was gonna say, I feel like Will Compton from Missouri, wherever he's from, backwoods, Missouri, would probably stick out like a sore thumb in New York City. But I feel like, the entire dress code of the Barstool Army is oversized T-shirts, short shorts, and Jordans with tall
white shoes,
long white shoes with long white socks with red and blue stripes at the top. Like, I feel like that's the uniform of the Stooley Army.
It's a starter kit.
The starter kit. Yeah, whatever happened to those internet memes of the starter packs, right? You'd have your basic Tennessee Titans starter pack, and it'd have, a Bud Adams double middle finger, a Jeff Fisher mustache, a Steve McNair, and an Eddie George or something like that.
I kind of like those.
Oh, those were funny as hell. It got me through a whole summer of. Actually, I feel like that was right around. No, that's been a while. Like that wasn't a quarantine thing. That's been a minute.
Yeah, that was pre-quarantine, because quarantine ushered in a totally new wave of internet trends that just drowned out anything that happened beforehand.
Internet poison. Shout out Tiger King. Yeah, the starter pack. So we'll check in with the boy from New York City later on then, and we'll get back into the Titans conversation. But we got to talk a little bit about and if you want to get involved with the show, 615-737-1045, we would welcome your participation. 615-737-1045. But there's two things that I wanted to make sure that we got to at some point on the radio show today. There is a survey going around, and I saw it from several people, but Josh Breslow, our buddy at WKRN News 2, tweeted it out this morning about, Justin wants to know what the Buck Rising starter kit would be. That's a good question. What would my starter kit be? I'll ask Lucas once he's finished fielding phone calls. I'll come back to that, Justin. Stay with me. Justin on YouTube. If you want to interact with us on the chat, if you want to hang out with us basically in the studio, you can do so on Zone TV, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter. We welcome all of you. So I'll get back to your starter kit content here in just a second. But I saw this being tweeted out this morning by our buddy Josh Breslow about Nashville drivers and where they rank amongst drivers in other cities around the country. Apparently, according to this survey, there is a survey has been taken that Nashville drivers rank as the 14th best in the country. In what world? I love all of you. I love this city. I love that you have allowed me to live in this city for nearly 6 years. All of you, though, many of you listening to me in your cars, you suck at driving. Perpetually. That is something I come from. I've lived a bunch of different places in my life. Indiana is the most recent before I moved to Nashville. Indiana for high school and college, and then come down here. So I'm used to bad driving because in the Midwest, people are too hesitant. People are too polite, almost. There's a degree of that in the Southeast as well. But Indiana does not hold a candle to how terrible people are on the Nashville roads. Now, I will say, in defense of Nashville, Tennessee drivers, that the vast majority of them are not from Nashville, Tennessee. They're all transplants. Because all the locals live out in Belmead or in Franklin or in Brentwood. Because for 15 years before Nashville started to boom, everybody was moving out to the suburbs instead of moving closer to the city. All the people like me who have come in and poisoned your fair city with our presence and apparently our vehicles, absolutely ruining the roadways for the rest of us. Explain to me how Nashville, Tennessee could possibly be considered the 14th best in terms of drivers on the roadways, because I can't explain that for one single solitary second.
I feel like everybody thinks wherever they live has the worst drivers.
Nah, I don't think that's true. I think that in major metropolitan areas, Nashville being one, but not amongst the biggest of them, because I've lived in D.C. in my life. I've lived in New York City. I've lived in New Jersey. I understand. I mean, hell, I've lived in Cairo, Egypt, where there's no lanes. There's no lanes.
And that's
on the
funny
road.
thing too.
So you're swerving in and out like between a donkey cart and stuff like that. Like it's all, every man for himself, every man, woman, and child for themselves at that point.
But less accidents happen. It's incredible. Going to visiting family overseas, like going to Italy or going to Rome, the driving is so chaotic.
Oh, my God.
Going in between lanes, in and out. There's like a giant roundabout around the Coliseum where there's just no rules. People are just going insane in and out. But, like, wrecks don't happen. It's unbelievable. Everybody kind of has the same mentality of driving, whereas here, there's obviously way more rules, way more lanes, way more structure, but you feel like dumber things happen.
It's what I'm saying. It's like it's the most stressful kind of driving here because people don't understand spacing. Like, while you're supposed to stay in your lane unless you're trying to pass. People don't understand that as a concept. People don't understand the requisite distance that you're supposed to keep between you and the car in front of you so you're not jerking back and forth in a way that, like, makes me feel I'm going to get whiplash from how often I'm braking because people they see just a little bit of space. They think that's a means for them to go faster when they're not actually making any damn forward progress. They get in front of you, and then it creates havoc for all of the people behind you. It is among the worst things in the world. How in the hell, if this is the state of our country, the state of our country is in shambles anyway, but if this is something to where the rest of the country, there are that many more places that are worse drivers than the city of Nashville, Tennessee, I can't imagine. It causes me great anxiety even to think about.
I mean, the thing you'll see, too, outside of the U.S., like, there's not that many, you don't see that many motorcycles riding around in Nashville, right? But outside of the U.S., like, they're everywhere. And most other countries, at least in Europe, when, like, lanes are clogged up, there's a ton of traffic across 4 lanes, bumper to bumper, motorcycles are allowed to use that space in between cars. Like, along where the lane divides, they're allowed to kind of jump the gun and go between cars and ahead of traffic. That's not allowed here. But, again, I feel like more wrecks happen here than in those cases.
Justin on YouTube says, most of these drivers' cornbread ain't done in the middle. I like that as analysis.
Yeah,
615-737-1045 if you want to chime in. Lil Fudge 07. I like that as a Twitter handle. Lil Fudge. Lil Fudge says, less rules for driving makes you pay more attention. I mean, maybe that's true. I don't know. Like, living overseas for as long as I did, and I mean, you know, I'm going to try and say this, Lucas, in a way that doesn't make me sound like a douchebag, okay?
Was it like living, or did you just, like, spend 3 weeks there? And, like, when I lived in Egypt.
No, I lived in Cairo, Egypt for, probably, I think 3 or 4 years.
Okay, that's
total.
Right. Yeah.
So when we lived in Cairo, we had a driver, okay? My family had a driver. And so it wasn't us physically on the roadways, and I wasn't old enough to drive anyway, so it's not like I have any real concept of this other than seeing all of the, motorcycles and, like, what do you call them, Vespas and little taxis with luggage racks on the roof of them that look like
Vespas, man.
Look like they're halfway rusted through.
Meanwhile, my dad had a Vespa for a while.
Meanwhile, there's a donkey pulling a garbage cart that's stacked, 3 stories high at this point. This poor, sad little donkey. It's as close as I've been to calling PETA. But anyway. So, like, I don't have any real-life experience driving in overseas traffic because at the time my family had a driver. But for me, I simply do not understand how less rules can mean that you're a better driver because you have to pay more attention. I understand that you have to have your head on a swivel, but also that does not equate better driving to me. That means it brings more stress into your life. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved. Because God knows I didn't think we'd be taking this, no pun intended, detour today. But Ike is in Nashville. He wants to weigh in on the traffic rankings of the Nashville population. What's going on, Ike?
Brother, I'm good with the 14 rank. What the problem is not with Nashville driving. It's with people outside of Nashville coming to Nashville and trying to drive their city in Nashville.
Ooh, I like that.
You can't drive Detroit in Nashville. You can't drive Houston in Nashville. You can't drive L.A. in Nashville. When in Rome, acclimate to what Romans do. And so we have a pace, we have a consideration, and we have a way that we do things here. If you're coming here, learn those ways.
Yeah, Ike, that is the best possible analysis of the situation. Adapt to your surroundings, because V-Love tweets us, Nashville is a transplant city now, so it's all these carpetbaggers moving here who suck and bring us down. I put it in a little more genteel way, a little more diplomacy in that response. But that's exceptional analysis. You can't move from Manhattan and drive Manhattan in Middle Tennessee. It's just not how it's going to go down. You have to adjust to the speed of things here, even if it is not the pace of your life that you're used to. But this, so I'm reading the WKRN News 2 article that was going around yesterday about Nashville drivers being ranked the 14th best in the nation. It's apparently according to a report from a place called Quote Wizard. So I feel like that Quote Wizard being the
seems legit.
The sourcing on that, I feel like immediately invalidates whatever the hell they just claimed to have analyzed. But anyway, we'll come back. It's time for your involvement. We got a pair of tickets to give away to Three Doors Down if you give us the dumbest thing in sports this week. It's our regular weekly Wednesday installment. 615-737-1045 is how you give your dumbest thing in sports this week for a chance to win tickets to see Three Doors Down and Seether. We look forward to your nominees coming up next.
The best Titans coverage can be found on your smartphone.
Comeback foiled. Titans 4-2.
Download the 1045 The Zone app. Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans radio. 1045 The Zone.
need to go. Exceptional analysis from Casey. Michael Stacy from Casey to Michael Stacy. Michael Stacy on Twitter says the report of Nashville ranking 14th best drivers gives me reason to never drive anywhere else for fear of certain death. That's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of hellscape must the rest of the country be that we are the 14th best drivers in the nation? I simply do not believe that. What I do believe in is that there are many dumb things happening across the world of sports this week. So with that being said, Lucas, let us do the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
"What the is this?"
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
Something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real. It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
Sure as hell is. 615-737-1045. 615-737-1045. It's been since we're giving away tickets. I think we should give away some more tickets, Lucas, for the people who bring us the best or the dumbest of the dumb. The dumbest thing in sports this week.
Yeah, congrats to Michael Urrutia, by the way, for winning those Three Doors Down tickets.
Oh, that's an interesting last name.
Chilean, he tells me.
Very nice. Did you ask?
I did. I'm always interested in that kind of stuff.
No, I appreciate that. You know what? That's you going above and beyond the requirements of your job. I respect that. But if you are going to participate in the dumbest thing in sports this week, because it is Dad's Week on 104.5 The Zone, leading up to Father's Day, we will be giving you a chance to win dad tickets to events and concerts all week long. If you give us the dumbest of the dumb when it comes to the dumbest thing in sports this week, you can win a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Sounds game. So you can take Dad out to First Horizon Park this summer. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved in the proceedings. So, Lucas is currently loading up the phone line, so I will begin the proceedings for the dumbest thing in sports this week. Now, there were many, many things to choose from, and I think, honestly, because I heard Lucas's already in the pre-show meeting, I think Lucas is going to trump mine. But this was something that came to my attention over the weekend. The sport of boxing. The sport of boxing is an absolute shambles for a great many reasons. But because it's become this mutated version of sorority and frat fight night. Like, I know a lot of people went to colleges where they host like fight nights where you have several participants from campus organizations around. I don't know if Tennessee did something.
Tennessee has boxing weekend, like long-standing, fraternity weekend tradition.
Right. So there's several campuses, many campuses around the country that do that. That's what the sport of boxing, like professionally, has now become. Because I get my news from TMZ because I'm trash. But I got a notification from TMZ over the weekend. All it says is Lamar Odom of NBA legend, also of the Kardashians, knocks out Aaron Carter.
Yeah.
Aaron Carter, like, I want candy. Aaron Carter, like first pop star that I can remember in my lifetime. Aaron Carter. So Lamar Odom knocks out Aaron Carter in, I put in air quotes, celeb boxing match.
Every boxing match is a celeb boxing match now. That's just what boxing is now.
I'm telling you. And do you know how much I wish that I had thought about this earlier, Lucas, because there's great sound from Floyd Mayweather about he is the best legalized bank robber in the business for all of the money that he's been taking off all of the dumb people willing to watch things like Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather or Conor McGregor. He made $35 million off of fighting a YouTuber.
But the Conor McGregor thing is totally in a different stratosphere.
No, it's not.
No, I'm fine with that because that is the best UFC fighter in the world against the current best boxer in the world. A TikTok star against the best boxer in the world. That is a mockery. There weren't even any judges. There were no results.
Well, he's a YouTube star, but I understand what you're saying. Well, no, because you're spot on. Because now there's a whole league of TikTokers versus YouTube people in boxing. It's insane to me. And they're making millions of dollars. And people are people, Lucas. Young people in their mid-20s and early 30s are flocking to this slop.
The sport is dead. I've said it many times on this show.
Like, at least because Barstool has Rough and Rowdy, right? Barstool kind of ventured into these waters with Rough and Rowdy, and at least Rough and Rowdy, you know what you're signing up for. Like, you know that it's a sham. No, this is what's actually attracting people to the sport of boxing. YouTubers fighting a 50-damn-year-old Floyd Mayweather who's telling you, yeah, who's the dumb one? I may not be able to read, but you're paying money for this. That's the dumbest thing in sports this weekend. Bruce, can I get an amen?
Oh, yeah. You're an idiot.
Yeah, I'm saying. Like, the entirety of the sports, just the idea that Lamar Odom is 6'10". Aaron Carter is like 5'11". What the hell are we doing here? 615-737-1045 is how you nominate the dumbest thing in sports this week for your chance to win sound tickets. Lucas will do his coming up next. We will get to Jason and John to start the proceedings. If you want to go to a Sounds game, we got you. All you got to do is give us the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Getting you fired up every weekday afternoon.
I'm telling you, man, I'm fired up now.
I know you are telling the truth, dude.
Blaine and Mickey. This afternoon, 1 to 3 on 104.5 The Zone.
get a chance to win a pair of Sounds tickets. If you give us the dumbest thing in sports this week, by consensus, stupid, we will send you to a Sounds game for free, a pair of tickets. So, Lucas has his nominee, and then we will go to the phones. We have Triple J. We got Jason, John, and Joshua. We will get to those in short order. But, Lucas, who do you have for the proceedings?
So Cristiano Ronaldo, who just about everybody knows, star forward for Portugal and Juventus, had his press conference ahead of Portugal's match against Hungary, which they won 3-0 yesterday, had a press conference on Monday. And as is customary in these press conferences, like you see in college football, there are Coke bottles sitting kind of on the table where the players and managers sit to answer questions.
Nick Saban, I feel like singularly has helped make Coke famous.
Yes, he has asked reporters to ask the Coke bottle questions he doesn't like. But Ronaldo sat down, and think of Ronaldo as like a European Tom Brady. Until he's 36 years old, looks like he's 25 years old kind of thing. Has gotten progressively younger as he's gotten older. That whole deal.
Turns out getting rich can keep you young.
Yeah, wow, what a novelty. But he sat down, looked down at the Coke bottles, kind of made a face, moved the Coke bottles away from in front of him, held up a water bottle, and just said, agua, which, of course, is water in Portuguese and in Spanish and a few other languages.
Drink your water, mind your business.
And then he went on and he did his press conference. Well, according to ESPN, Adriana Garcia reports, Cristiano Ronaldo's removal of 2 Coca-Cola bottles at a Euro 2020 news conference coincided with a $4 billion drop in the market value of the American drink giant.
Oh, my God.
So it's not, my dumbest thing is not Ronaldo actually moving the Coke and saying drink water. It's just the fact that action alone caused a $4 billion drop in market value.
You told me that. I almost wish you hadn't already told me this morning because, my jaw dropped to the floor. To the floor. $4 billion gone in market shares for Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola ain't hurting.
No.
Austin underscore Nash on Twitch says, buy the dip. I mean, sure. But simply picking up 2, and are they like the Mexican Coke bottles, like the glass Coke bottles?
Yeah, like glass Coke bottles. He just moved them to the side and just said agua, which held up his water bottle.
$4 billion gone.
He also said like Coca-Cola, which is saying Coke in Portuguese, basically, like almost in a bit of a disgusted manner. But Coke did release a statement saying everyone is entitled to their drink preferences.
I mean, and then they immediately asked for their money back from Euro 2020 because they had to be pissed for the markets to move that way. I mean, this is why for me, I think it's dumb. We're talking about the dumbest thing in sports. And if you want to get in with your chance to win a pair of tickets to a Sounds game, we would be happy to accept your nominees. But this is why people who discount soccer to me are not paying attention. Cristiano Ronaldo, the level of stardom that this man has and the amount of scrutiny internationally that is on him has the ability to affect a $4.1 billion market change just by shuffling a few soda cans off to the side.
He's the most followed person on Instagram in the world.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has millions of Instagram followers.
Well, sure, but I think J-Lo has 127 million or something like that.
He has 300 million or something.
Ronaldo
insane.
is the most followed person on Instagram in the world.
Yes. Last I checked. I can verify his number of followers, but it is something ridiculous.
Because he's the rare dual threat, right? He's the international sports star, and also he's a thirst trap. I mean, almost regardless.
Yeah, he has 299 million followers. But twice as many as J-Lo.
I'm out here trying to figure out how to get to 2K.
Well, it's not just him, too. Paul Pogba of France sat down. He's Muslim, so he doesn't drink alcohol. There was a Heineken bottle in front of him, even though I think it was a 0% alcohol. He moved that out of the way, and Heineken took a hit.
Man, that's wild to me. So wait, who's dumb in that? Are you saying that
the concept?
The concept.
The concept is the concept
that's dumb.
They can lose $4 billion because a soccer player moved Coke bottles out of the way. That's my dumbest thing in sports.
You know what? That's fair. I think that's a strong candidate. I think that might. I don't know. The celebrity boxing with Aaron Carter and Lamar Odom may be a good contender, but that is outrageous. 615-737-1045 is how you tell us what the dumbest thing in sports this week is. Jason has been waiting patiently for his opportunity to potentially win some Sounds tickets. What's going on, Jason?
About to buy me some Coke stock after hearing that little story. But yeah, I'm going to have to give it to Luke Smith of the Corn Ferry Tour. After he apparently tried to attack his playing partner this past week. And then I'll give the runner-up to Luke's dad, who, when people started running in trying to break up the fight, his dad was swinging the putter at him, trying to let his son continue to beat the crap out of his opponent.
Wait, so okay.
I thought that was a pretty good one.
No, Jason, you got to give me a little more details because I am unfamiliar with the situation that you're talking about. So what the hell happened?
Yeah, so it was on the commentary tour, and I think the opponent's name was Austin Bailey. He was hitting some rough shots, and it was causing the pace of play to slow down. And anyways, Austin said, "Hey man, if you help me look for my balls, we can get the play going back." And apparently, Luke Smith and his dad just started cursing him out, saying, don't play so bad, basically. And Austin Bailey apparently turns to walking to the next hole, and next thing he knows, Luke Smith is on his back, throwing punches on him. And there's a third person in the group. He ran in to try to break him up. And Luke's dad, who's apparently a CEO for a big company in Memphis, took out the putter and was like swinging the putter at the guy who was trying to break up the fight.
Holy hell. I love that.
Yeah, never in my life. I saw him send me the article this week, and I was like, that has to be the dumbest thing I've ever saw.
Okay. Yeah, Jason, I appreciate the call. Also, we need to get Jason a better phone. I think I didn't understand what he was saying because he was like not talking into the receiver. It's okay, bud.
He tweeted it at us, too. UT Martin golfer getting arrested for assault during a Corn Ferry tour, Monday qualifier, while his banker dad was his caddy. When you put it that way.
Hey, make golf great again. 615-737-1045. More fights in golf. All this professionalism can go straight to hell. Zach Feast, 23. Okay, so apparently the Twitch chat was having a difficult time hearing Jason. Basically, to paraphrase, a couple of college golfers got in a fight, and their dad started swinging a putter at one of them to try, not in an attempt to break up the fight, but to further aggravate the proceedings. That is fairly dumb. I will take that. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Josh in Nashville, who's got a nominee for the dumbest thing in sports this week. Forgive me, John in Nashville. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Buck. Man, I thought Lucas was going to steal mine there for a second, and then I was going to be real upset. My dumbest thing in sports this week also revolves around Ronaldo. It's the media outrage and excoriation that they have had of Ronaldo for moving the Coke bottles. I listen to a British radio station because they keep a lot of the Euro coverage for me.
Sure.
And they were talking about it, and one of the presenters said that the Portugal FA should be fined millions of euros for this, and that Ronaldo should be suspended for the remainder of the tournament simply for moving the Coke bottles because Coca-Cola as a sponsor is more important than the players. Now, in a sport that is rife with bribery, rife with human rights violations.
Yep.
Just general corruption.
Just general bad human behavior.
Right. And all kinds of mind-bogglingly stupid ideas. You're going to take one of the top 3 players of all time. There's no question. You're going to take him out of the tournament because he said, I don't drink Coke. Something that's very on brand for him.
Yes.
Something that he's been very passionate about his entire career and says he chooses to drink water. This is the same guy who calls out his own son and says his son will never be a great soccer player because he eats too many snack foods. Guys, just sit this one out.
I think that's really good analysis from John because and of course what the presenters that he's listening to on British radio, he said that we're keeping the Euro 2020 coverage for him, which I'm sure it's that is a soccer fan to go to those kind of lengths to find.
Yeah, respect, John.
No, I like that a lot. Lucas's little heart fresh off the Nashville soccer show last night with Davey Shepard and Will Bowling. He's soaring right now because he is among like minds. But what I will say to you is that that British radio show that you're listening to talking about the Euro 2020 probably brought to you by Coca-Cola. So, of course, they're going to breathe down. And I'm kidding, of course. That's ridiculous to get that bent out of shape about it.
I think Coke is like the general presenting sponsor of the entire tournament.
Sure, because they have the ability to lose $4.1 billion in market share and not bat an eye. Incredible to me. 615-737-1045. That's a strong nominee by John. Let's go to Joshua in Springfield, who's got a dumbest thing in sports this week. Go ahead, Joshua.
Yes. You actually gave me one, and I'm not going to be able to top John on this. So I would say go ahead and give him the tickets. But I never thought I would see the day where boxing is called more fake than professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's tough. It's
Yep.
really bad. Thank you for the call, Joshua. 615-737-1045. By far and away, like AEW that had the Urban Meyer skit the other day and what's happening in the WWE right now, like I would so much rather watch that than pay to watch a Floyd Mayweather Logan Paul fight. But like I mean, we got to be in the minority, right? Because people are buying this stuff. People are buying this crap, and that is something that is beyond comprehension to me. I mean, it's just clearly you don't care about like the art of boxing. And listen, boxing, like horse racing, all of these old-timey sports that have like a 1930s or 50s feel to them at a time when, you know, sports in America were much, much different and baseball was America's pastime and all this stuff. Like, I understand that boxing is fading from relevancy. The heavyweights have just now risen to a level of fame where the fights are mainstream and you want to go to bars and watch them with your friends or pay for the fight like Tyson Fury, and they seem to have found something that makes the money, so they keep running it back as many times as humanly possible. But yeah, I mean, but the problem is, Joshua, it's not fake. Like, they're doing this for real. It's just the whole thing around it is a sham. Utterly embarrassing for the sport. But I mean, if this is how you get people there, like everything else, like college football playoff expansion, like Coca-Cola sponsoring the Euro 2020, it's all about them Benjamins, baby. That's how we get. That's what moves the needle in the realm of sports. 615-737-1045. Cam is in Brentwood. He's got a dumbest thing in sports this week. Go ahead, Cam. Cam, you're on the air. Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I'm the guy that went to work yesterday in my lawn mowing shoes because I thought it was weed day.
Yes! Yes! Hello, Cam. Your wife was a stud yesterday calling into the show.
Yeah, I only had like 10 minutes to listen yesterday, and I just happened to be in the car at the same time she was selling me out.
Cam, what part of
So
615 day made you think it was weed day?
I guess because of 420. I got it mixed up with 420.
It's okay. It happens to the best of us.
So anyways, the dumbest thing in sports for me is the cup snake police at Wrigley Field. And apparently before COVID, they built these cup snakes out of all the beer cups. And they would just, they'd have hundreds of cups, make these things hundreds of cups tall. And going up
I've seen it for sure.
And so now, so they have resurrected that again now that restrictions have been lifted. But they have cup snake police. They have ushers coming around breaking those up because apparently they feel like that's too many germs in this environment. So they're sending ushers out to break up the cup snakes.
Man, Cam, thank you to you and thank you for your wife for making the radio show fun the past couple days. That was hilarious when she called in yesterday. But yeah, the cup snake police. I mean, Wrigley Field is a great environment. I've only been to Wrigley once, and it wasn't actually for a Cubs game. I went to a Bruce Springsteen concert. It was wild. 4 hours, Bruce Springsteen out in the playing the outfield. I had front row tickets. There's a whole story behind that because I almost didn't get in, and it was close to me emancipating myself from my mother because she bought tickets for the wrong day and hyped me up because I asked her what day the tickets were on, and she told me the wrong day, and then had to scramble before and find me the tickets. This is first world problems, and I'm entirely entitled. So you know what you know what I'm saying. But the cup snake police situation. I mean, listen, it's like the College World Series, right? You understand why they are putting the restrictions in place for media and for fans due to COVID-19 protocol. But a lot of it at this point seems arbitrary. Like it seems like we're just kind of making up the rules as we go. That's what the cup snake police feels like to me. That is a dumb thing in sports. 615-737-1045. Joe is in Wait, we have two Joes in Nashville? How are we going to discern between the two Joes in Nashville, Lucas? We'll figure it out. Joe, what's going on?
Man, hey, look. I know Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Bill, all the great big men of the NBA are pulling whatever hair they have left out of their heads after watching the Milwaukee Bucks. So my dumbest of the week are the Milwaukee Bucks. The team, coaching staff, everybody. How do you have 2 7-footers that don't go anywhere in the paint? When they were up by 12, 16 points, all they had to do was go into the low post and punish the Nets. Durant was able to go off and score 50 points. Why? Because they weren't forcing him to do anything on the defensive end because the other 7-footer was standing way out on the 3-point line.
Yeah.
So I'm nominating the Milwaukee Bucks as I believe if they would have won that game last night, they would have won the series. Just because they didn't, I think the Knicks are going to take it.
Man, Joe, that is such a great observation by you because I was talking to Lucas this morning, and I said, I watched the Nets and the Bucks last night. An important game. James Harden was supposed to be out. He came back. He played through injury. Kevin Durant had a 49-point triple-double, and everybody's talking about Durant because they're paying attention to the points, not how Durant got the points. The Bucks coaching staff has continued to botch like easy opportunities. You had the ability to step on the Nets' neck. This was, you talk about like a legacy game or something like that, the way that Kevin Durant, probably for the first time in quite some time, was looking like he was going to have to go it alone, basically in a big spot in the postseason. Now, Harden obviously came back and was limited to a degree, but James Harden, for all the fun that people make of him physically, he's one of the most durable players in basketball. Like that dude, we talked about Julio Jones understanding his body. James Harden's got a really, really acute sense of himself. I think that is valuable when you start to get up in years the way that he has. But Durant had the ability, to kind of take things over last night, and the Bucks largely let him. Like Kevin Durant is going to get his shots no matter what. But when you give him easy access like that in the paint, you are completely undoing yourself without having to go through all the trouble of what it takes to actually defend a freak, an extraterrestrial like Kevin Durant. So it was good on Durant and good on the Nets to get the win. There's been a bunch of crazy news in the NBA today, by the way. If we were an NBA market, we would be all over what's happening. You see the Kawhi Leonard stuff?
Woj bombs all over the place.
What the hell? It's literally a Woj nuke on my Twitter feed. But we'll keep it to the Nets and the Bucks last night. Durant impressive, but Milwaukee certainly disappointing. Let's get a couple more in here before we award some Sounds tickets for the dumbest thing in sports this week. Let's go quickly to Kevin and Dixon. What you got, Kevin?
Hey, I'm not sure if this would qualify as sport or not. I was watching the Westminster Dog Show the other night.
Oh.
The announcers had this under 8-inch Boston Terrier built up as the dog to beat. The trainer or the handler is all chiro taped and everything. Runs out on the course with the dog, falls, practically wipes out the dog, and they have no chance to win.
That is incredible. Honestly,
that is a good one.
Because I know, for whatever reason, I know who won the Westminster Dog Show is a I can't remember the breed, but his name is Wasabi, and he just looks it's not a real dog. It's something that looks like it was genetically manufactured in a lab for Instagram likes. But that is hilarious. That's some like you couldn't write that into best in show, which is, by the way, a spectacular comedy movie. Dumbest thing in sports this week. Here on 104.5 The Zone, each and every Wednesday. A lot of good nominees this week. So we will, Lucas and I will have a meeting of the minds, and we will decide who we should award the dumbest thing in sports this week. Prize 2, a pair of tickets to a Nashville Sounds game. We're going to send you to First Horizon Park. We'll come back and tell you who won, and we'll continue the sports conversation. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Want exclusive Titans coverage? Just say, hey, Alexa, play 5 The Zone.
a winner for the dumbest thing in sports this week during the commercial break. And Lucas said, there's one more call. There's one more call from Chris. And I myself have a secondary nominee that we'll get to. But Lucas says, Chris has just called in. Maybe we take Chris's call. I said, well, is it a good one? Is it worth us prolonging the segment, prolonging the giveaway to have Chris on the show? And Lucas reconnected with Chris, and he said, yeah, it's pretty good. So, Chris, lay it on me.
So, thanks for taking my call. This weekend, Sunday, my son played in a baseball game, a 15U baseball tournament. And I'm all for competition. I think healthy competition is good for everyone. So as we was pulling up and parking, I started noticing, people getting out of cars. And I noticed this one kid got out of the car, and I'm thinking he may play for the 17U team because he drove.
Yeah.
Thick beard, kind of like a Duck Dynasty beard, and this kid beard rivaled mine. So I'm thinking this kid plays for the 17U team. Come to find out, this kid's on the 15U team. Now, there is no way, and I mean no way, this kid is 15 years old. Come to find out, this kid not only is he not 15, he's 18. Not only did he drive, this kid drove a car that was better than mine.
He could buy cigarettes.
I honestly wanted to ask the kid, what are your beard products? Because that looks amazing.
How do you keep that thing so coiffed?
I am 12.
I am 12. Yeah, that's right. Let me see your birth certificate, son. That's hilarious. You know what I thought he was going to say? I thought he was going to say it was Ramon Foster's kid. Thank you for the call, Chris. 615. Well, I mean, I guess you could call it 615-737-1045. That's a pretty good one. I thought he was going to say it was Ramon Foster's kid.
The audacity to show up in a car with a full beard to a 15U game.
You're an adult.
To drive to a 15U game.
You can vote.
So wrong.
That's outstanding. Because I say it was Ramon Foster. What I was hoping that it would have been Ramon Foster's kid because Ramon and his son, his oldest son, do travel baseball. And Ramon took a picture of his son with all the other kids on the team. And, son of a professional athlete, my man is not twice the size of the other kids, like height-wise. I'm not talking about like physical stature, but height-wise, he is twice the size of the other kids. So I was hoping for the comedic payoff of it being Ramon Foster's son. But no, full beard, 18 years old, pulling up in a car nicer than Chris in Thompson Station. That's pretty nice. All right, Lucas, who should we give him to? Because I thought John in Nashville with the media fake outrage with the media, Ronaldo for moving the Coke bottles is good. I liked Chris in Thompson Station. I also sneaky good Kevin and Dixon with the Westminster dog show trainer tripping over himself and taking the dog out. We hope that the dog is okay. The trainer, not so much. Idiot. So you are you get to make your decision. My vote counts for 2 because unfortunately for you, my name is still the one on the show. But who are you in favor of at this point?
You know what? I really, my soccer biases make me want to pick John because that's a really good one, and it kind of matched up with mine because mine was also about Ronaldo.
No bias.
But removing the biases, and John, I appreciate you. I'm between Chris and Kevin, but I think a trainer tripping over his dog at a dog
really
show
good.
is hilarious. So I think I'm leaning Kevin here.
All right. We have consensus. Unanimous. Kevin and Dixon.
All right.
Lucas is going to give you a call back. We're going to send you to see a Sounds game for free. A couple of tickets as a part of Dad's Week here on 104.5 The Zone. Thank you guys, as always, for your participation in the dumbest thing at sports. It makes me laugh out loud every time, the amount of ridiculousness that takes place in this arena that we get to spend so much time talking about. What we are going to get into in the final hour today, I want to circle back around to Titans minicamp conversation because, of course, they will have their second and final minicamp practice today. They'll be in the building on Thursday, but they will not, as Mike Vrabel told us yesterday, hold a workout on the field at St. Thomas Sports Park. So I want to come back to some stuff that we heard from Mike Vrabel specifically, who, by the way, will be on the radio show tomorrow at 11:30. So make sure that you're tuned in for that. Be good to catch up with Mike in a little more personal setting rather than on a Zoom. I don't know how Mike feels about that, but I'm excited. So We'll hear from Mike Vrabel, and we'll hear from Bud Dupree as well, because I think there are a couple of things that stand out about what these two individuals had to say after the mandatory minicamp yesterday that are going to have ripple effects throughout the course of the season. Also, the Jacksonville Jags coaching staff is currently speaking to the media, and they have said something unceasingly stupid. Like, if I had the opportunity to nominate a second dumbest thing in sports this week, this might be the winner for as good as Kevin and Dixon was on the Westminster dog show trainer tripping all over himself. I will tell you what that is coming up next. Also, Will Compton's going to be here. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Coming up today on Blaine and Mickey.
David Beauclair joins us to discuss the Titans.
There's Mike Vrabel sound, there's Bud Dupree sound, but then this might, Lucas, supersede it. Have you seen what the hell is happening with the Jacksonville Jags today?
Yes. Many nominated it on Twitter for the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Buddy. So about an hour ago, our friend Michael DeRocco of ESPN, he covers the Jags, down there in Jacksonville. He's tweeting out quotes from offensive coordinator, or rather, pass game coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, whom, by the way, some of you wanted as your offensive coordinator, lest we forget. Let me remind you how bad of an idea that would have been just because he was the offensive coordinator for Russell Wilson. You guys thought that was some kind of thing that made him valuable, when in reality, Russell Wilson has been running for his life back there, as he basically said as much on national talk shows all over the place, and then said that he didn't demand a trade. I digress. So Brian Schottenheimer is doing media availability right now with the Jacksonville media. And so DeRocco is tweeting out quotes, one in particular. Jaguars, this is from ESPN DeRocco on Twitter. Jaguars pass game coordinator Brian Schottenheimer said the team hasn't named a starting quarterback yet. Quote, it's still too early to say how this thing's going to play out. Are you bleeping kidding me? Is Gardner Minshew even on the roster in Jacksonville right now? You're joking. You won one damn game last year. One. And you're going to sit there with a straight face, because that was a question that somebody asked DeRocco on Twitter. Mike Wells, the Colts ESPN reporter, tweeted Mike and said, did Schottenheimer say that with a straight face? Mike's response, sure did. Unbelievably. Lucas, if you get a second, actually, Lucas is busy, so I'll look it up. I'm trying to figure out who the Jags' backup quarterback is right now. Because if it's Gardner Minshew, you know what that looks like. You're going to sit there and tell me that the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback god amongst man, you've invested this draft capital in him, and you are sitting there and telling me that he is not going to be the starter for the 2020 season. I don't care. I don't care what you're trying to hide in terms of competitive advantage. It does not, you're not fooling anybody. If you trot out there with Gardner Minshew, everybody's seen it at this point. So I'm looking at the Jags depth chart right now on ESPN. Now, remember, these are projections, but ESPN's projected depth chart for the Jags quarterback position, Trevor Lawrence is the starter, Gardner Minshew the second as the backup, local product C.J. Beathard is the third string quarterback projected in Jacksonville. If I see that mustached fool, Minshew, out on a football field, and C.J. Beathard's a lovely guy. I've had him on my podcast before. His family went through a considerable amount of tragedy in the last, that's probably been a little over a year at this point when they lost his brother. But not to get distracted. Also, Jake Luton, who we have seen start games. Jake Luton started a game over Gardner Minshew because of how bad Gardner Minshew sucks. And you're going to tell me that Trevor Lawrence, proclaimed first overall pick for the past, since he's been in high school, it's too early to name a quarterback yet. Why do coaches do this?
Tim Tebow. Picturing it. Wearing 85, slinging it around.
Liam Neeson. Is Tim damn Tebow going to be the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jags next year?
Yes.
I can't. How? This is like the Houston Texans not having a mandatory minicamp themselves and telling Houston media that they didn't have time to assign all the players' jersey numbers, so none of them at the voluntary workouts were wearing jersey numbers.
This is like something that high school programs have trouble with.
Why are the rest of the AFC South so dumb?
Great for the Titans.
Carson Wentz, the broken one, is going to be the savior of Indianapolis. You got Brian Schottenheimer out here saying it's too soon. It's too soon. It's too early. I'm not ready yet. Man, you better shut the hell up. Chris Mad Dog Russo, where is he? Say that to me.
Hey, shut up. Stay low.
No. Say that to me.
Say that to me. Say that to anybody. Say it to somebody.
With a straight face, Brian Schottheimer. How could you possibly be this thick? People get bent out of shape about Vrabel yesterday. Not necessarily. He's not giving any details on what's going on with Caleb Farley, really, outside of saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he's saying, yeah, it's all been positive within the role that we've asked him to do, which is sit in the Zoom meetings and learn the playbook. Great. Mike Vrabel's never going to give you an injury update on a player, especially right now when there are no injury reports. That I think is it's Mike's decision if he wants to do that, at least with medical information and with injury information, I can understand. But this kind of crap, inexplicable to me, indefensible to me. I want to call so I can mock that laugh, says Buck's Adderall medication. It's not a laugh. That's my fake cry. It made Lucas laugh. I don't know. I'm trying here, all right? I thought that came across well. Apparently, Buck's Adderall medication in the comments on Twitch disapproves. Just unbelievably stupid. How am I supposed to transition from how am I supposed to transition, Lucas, from incompetence to competence down the street at St. Thomas Sports Park?
Yeah, that might be the dumbest thing in sports this week.
I mean, it by a mile. We just spent
full hour.
Lebowski says, but Andy Dalton, a.k.a. Conan O'Brien, is the starting quarterback in Chicago, according to Matt Nagy, Buck. Yeah.
But even that is a better argument, and it's not a good one. But even to say that is still a competition is a better argument than what they're doing in Jacksonville.
Gardner Minshew, Jake Luton, and C.J. Beathard. Nothing personal against them, but they stink at professional quarterback. You know who doesn't? The dude who just went first overall. Let me not get bent out of shape.
If Gardner Minshew didn't have that mustache, would Jags fans like him?
No, he has a mullet now, too. Listen, he's very, very smart. You want to talk about good marketing?
Oh, yeah.
Gardner Minshew gets the marketing. He gets that angle of it. It's the only reason he's relevant, because it's sure as hell not what he does on the field. Although, in that first what was that? Their first home game against Jacksonville. That was a week 2 last year. Just absolutely diced the Titans up.
Yeah, and that was coming off a Jags win against Indianapolis.
Well, yeah, and he had over a 90% completion rate because he's just paper cutting you to death.
And then they proceeded to lose 15 games in a row.
That is correct. One win for the great Gardner Minshew and a little bit of Jake Luton sprinkled all over it. All right, we have Will Compton coming up next, but I want to make sure that we get to this Mike Vrabel sound because I do think this is relevant. So, going from incompetent to competent, how a competent team manages disagreements within the facility, within the coaching staff, really, because this is one of the storylines coming out of just the Titans in general, right? The defense, all about the defense. The defense is a wide-ranging topic. You could go any variety of ways, any manner of approaches, any manner of angles on this defense. One of them in particular, though, is the guy who got a promotion in Shane Bowen, who is now officially the defensive coordinator. The person who was brought in to be a senior defensive assistant, former defensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, Jim Schwartz. And then there's big dog Mike Vrabel. So we've had this conversation with Mike before about how you manage a defense when there are so many voices. I believe the question was phrased to him, how do you balance the too many cooks in the kitchen approach? Vrabel, I thought, gave a really, really coherent and coherent's not the right word, but just a really well thought out answer, because I'm sure they've been thinking about this, because this is something that's going to hover over their heads no matter how far this goes, and really throughout the course of the season. For every time the defense has a miscue, this is going to come up. So Mike Vrabel's response to having too many guys involved in the defense was this yesterday with us via Zoom.
I mean, there's a head coach that, obviously is going to have the final say in everything we do. But that's the same on offense and defense and special teams. That's my job to make sure that we're doing things that we feel like can help us and from everything that I've seen, that there's been support there, and Jim's coaching the inside linebackers, and Jim Schwartz is trying to help us throughout the entire defense, and have communication with myself and Shane and the entire staff. And, I think the one thing that everybody has to realize is that there's going to be disagreements, right? Disagreements between John Robinson and myself, and we have conversations about them and we communicate. And when you leave a meeting, you have to all be on the same page when you go and give a message to the players, and that's what's most important, and that's what's critical, and that's what's happened, and that's what will continue to happen.
I think that's a great mindset for Titans fans to have when talking about the defensive coordinating situation, the coaching situation around the defense. Like in any workplace. Lucas, have we ever had a disagreement, by the way? Surely we've had disagreements. Maybe we haven't worked together long enough. But that would shock me to not have a disagreement with you.
Pretty small, usually small things, like who's going to win dumbest thing in sports this week.
Well, that's not a disagreement. That's a conversation. But sometimes they can be the same thing. And I think that's what you have to keep in mind. Vrabel is going to disagree with Schwartz. Schwartz is going to disagree with Bowen. Bowen's going to disagree with Vrabel. And the cycle continues. They're going to create a unified, or at least if they're good at their jobs, which I think largely, you could have the conversation about Bowen. But I would say to you that you can have a conversation, you can have a disagreement, and you can still come out with compromise to create a unified message to deliver to the team. That's what they're tasked with at this point. And largely, it's going to end up being Mike Vrabel's message because, as he said, there is a head coach. We will talk about a great many things having to do with football and the NFL with Will Compton, who is up at Barstool headquarters in New York City, who will join us for his weekly appearance before I head out to St. Thomas Sports Park for the last day of mandatory minicamp. The Boy coming up next. I'm Buck Rising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
Every great Titans moment happens here. Your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
10 pounds. I'm going to get below. The goal is 199 by football season. It is very easily achievable. I went for a run at 2-mile run, 5:30 this morning. I will not tell you my pace because it was painfully slow. But I went. It's good progress. And I appreciate you for continuing to chirp me on social media to remind me that I need to get my ass out
Hang
there
on
and
now.
run.
We can't subtly walk over the fact that you're 210 and you only got 11 pounds to go with over a month left.
What do you mean? It's only 11 pounds is a lot in my world. I sit and talk in front of a microphone all day. That's a lot.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this much. Being out there at 5:30 a.m., it doesn't matter what pace you're going. Like being out there at 5:30 before the sun comes up, that fires me up. And the fact, are we going by preseason or are we going by regular season?
I'm going to be, by the time we come back for camp, I better be under 200 pounds because they're going to Tampa Bay for training camp with the practices with the Bucks, and I cannot be over 200 pounds and just die in that heat.
I'm with. I love the pace, Ron. You're gonna destroy. I think we should move to 195.
195. Well, I wasn't even 195 in high school. You're asking a lot of me right now. Where did he go? Okay, there is Will. We're figuring it out. It looks like, yeah. Okay, what happened? I haven't been 195 since high school. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, but bro, we got over a month. You're 210 right now. We're talking 15 pounds, bro.
All right, I will accept that challenge.
I know we should probably go healthy. We should go probably 2 pounds a week. We should go 2 pounds a week. You're right. I don't want to be too hard on you, but just the fact that you're going right now and your efforts picking up, I'm rooting for you.
Okay, 2 pounds a week. We can do that. Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys here with us on 104.5 The Zone. I was out at Titans mandatory minicamp yesterday. Will Taylor, your co-host of Bussin' with the Boys, of course. Subscribe, rate, and review. New episode out this morning with the boys sweating their asses off on the bus and a special appearance by Roan. But what I will say to you, Lebowski writes in on the YouTube chat, by the way, time for the tapeworm diet. So apparently I'm coachable. I am coachable, but you cannot push me too far. This is a dangerous game that we're playing. But anyway, so I walk out onto the practice field. I'm looking for who's out there, who's not out there. Taylor is at the facility, I know, but he is not physically out on the practice field itself because he's rehabbing. But he takes time, this teammate of yours, this co-host of yours, to walk out to say, hey, Buck. He's peeking out from the door. You know the door I'm talking about out onto the media pad.
Yeah.
He's peeking out of the door. He's on the phone with somebody. He goes, hey, Buck. I say, yes, Taylor, how are you? He says, what are you trying out for offensive line this year? And I look at him, I say, I looked at him, you say, you trying out for tight end this year? What? He is so damn skinny. What the hell is happening with him?
He's over 300. I mean, listen, my man, it's created a little stress for our bussin' because there's a lot of work to be done. Obviously, he's a football player first, but my man has been laser focused with his diet, with his nutrition, with his rehab, with his knee. He is very anal, so anal to the point that he skipped my bachelor party because he was worried about diet and everything else and doesn't want to be seen like, if we take photos or anything like that, doesn't want to seem like he's slacking or partying or doing anything like that. But my man has laser-like focus with everything going on, and he's in great shape right now, but he is north of 300. I know it looks like a skinny 300 plus, but it's just a testament to the work the man is putting in right now.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do I become a skinny 300 plus so I can live my life and also look the way that Taylor does?
You're gonna be 6'7".
Yeah.
6'7" is the first step. I think being very tatted, I think that it makes you look skinnier than you are. You know what I mean? I feel like guys who are very tatted, they're able to hide any type of skin definition. It just makes you look a little more ripped than you are.
Which makes sense because I was thinking I've never had a tattoo before. I'm thinking about getting my first one, and now we have figured out the source of this. It's like wearing black to look thinner.
Exactly. Yes, you're right.
Will Compton here with us on 104.5 The Zone, presented by All American Pest Control. So to that end, this is the last week before the NFL goes on summer vacation, Will. And I wanted to we've talked with a handful of guys. We had Tannehill and Saffold, and yesterday Bud Dupree. Now I don't know if you know Bud at all. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to interact with Bud Dupree at all. But this is only the second time that we as media have gotten to talk to him. And I wanted to play some audio, Lucas, if we could, of Bud Dupree for Will talking about just how accepting basically the responsibility. Well, you were on this defense last year. You understand the struggles that the defense had, specifically the pass rush. But the way that this man, in the same way that you hold me accountable, is holding himself accountable because he understands the burden that's been placed on him. I wonder what you make of this audio from Bud Dupree yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team effort, but I'm a big part of that. Pressure bursts pipes or pressure creates a diamond. So, you got to take it at that standpoint. I mean, it's no secret. They got me here for that, to help out with the pass rush. And, I put it on my shoulder and I wear that hat while I'm working out in the off season, while I'm rehabbing right now, getting my knee right. We all know what it is. And that's just part of the business of this game called football. So, I took it upon myself to make sure that I make an impact, and as well as bringing guys up with me, man. The guys who've been here the whole time, as well as teaching those guys stuff that I learned over the years, and learning stuff from those guys that I may not know. Doing different pass rush things along with different trainers and stuff, and just bringing that knowledge to them. And also, if they do something with somebody else, just bring that knowledge together and constantly communicating on how we want to rush and how we want to be the unit. We want to make sure that we define ourselves before the season of what we want to be, and we have a clear vision and a clear goal of what we're working to, and that'll make things better. And then we'll have a path and we'll have milestones to hit, and that's how you build it.
Is there a pressure that comes with the money, or is it all just football?
I mean, to me, man, it comes with you expect to get paid big your second contract. If you're working hard your first contract, you expect to hit the second contract and get paid. And with that doesn't mean you have to go out there and change who you are, because that's what got you paid. So I just gotta go out there and continue to produce like I have, and and the bigger part of that is just not me producing; it's bringing someone else along to produce as well. So, and then once you're doing that, then it's all worth it.
So that's Bud Dupree yesterday with the Titans media. There's a lot there, Will, but I want to start with the part of him accepting the burden of what he's been paid here to come and do. I maybe that's a small thing, but I came away with that, and I saw a lot of interaction from Titans fans on Twitter, really fired up about the fact that he is publicly accepting that responsibility. I feel like oftentimes you can see, or it may be their intention, the athletes who are coming in with contracts like that, with an intentional purpose, clearly designed to be the fix to something that's gone wrong. But rarely do we hear them kind of acknowledge that publicly and accept that individual burden.
Yeah, I mean, number one, he sounds like a lunch pail guy. Anybody who comes in and understands, he acknowledging that he got paid, like that is the deal. You bust your A word to get to a second contract.
Say ass, it's okay. You relax.
You bust your ass to earn a second contract. You get that. Yeah, with that, I guess comes a little bit of pressure, but the fact that he's wearing that hat and openly talking about it. I mean, what I liked about the bit is just hearing the clarity, going from acknowledging the injury, what he's going through now, being clear on communication, bringing in and talking to guys about what he's learned before, bringing it to talk with guys and either coach them up, see what's already in place, bring it along with the guys that are already there. I mean, he's definitely the type of guy. He's saying all the right stuff for sure. What I want to hit on is the question that was asked. What did he say? Is there pressure getting paid, or is it just football? Who's that? Who's that guy? We got to talk about that.
You want to talk about him? There's a lot of things we could talk about. My buddy Corey Curtis at News 2. What do you want to start with? Go ahead.
Oh, Corey Curtis. Oh, I love Corey, but I did not know that's what he sounded like. I guess in that situation, is there pressure on getting paid, or is it just football?
Oh, well, listen, the media makes it, and I love Corey too. He's a friend of mine. The media likes to make these things about themselves. It sounds like when I ask a question, it sounds like I'm doing the radio show when I'm asking people.
Is there
questions.
a pressure that comes with the money, or is it all just football?
Yeah. Is there pressure that comes with the money, or is it just football?
Very self-serious broadcaster. Very self-serious broadcaster.
Yeah. No, but I'm definitely fired up to see what Bud does. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I've DM'd a couple times with old Bobby Spillane out in Pittsburgh, and he had a lot of good things to say about him. But he seems like a stud, man. I hope he gets his knee right. I know being obviously boys with Taylor that it's a very stressful time, a very stressful climb back. So I hope everything is healthy with him. But he sounds like a guy you want in the locker room.
So To that end, because Taylor's a good example of this, especially coming off a knee injury with the expectation to perform. He's been one of the team's, probably top 3 players while he's been here. He's been exceptional at what he does. But to that end, I mean, you've been around a lot of professional athletes, a lot of dudes on second contracts, big money contracts. Can you kind of describe for the audience? I know it's you're describing somebody else's experience, but you've seen it up close and personal, probably in several different ways. Can you describe what it's like for those guys, or who you may have been around that you've seen go through something where it does start to weigh on you, where the expectation does start to overwhelm you, understanding that athletes go in with the mindset of, yeah, I can do this, I can conquer this, I can take this, I'm the best at what I'm doing, but it's a lot of pressure that these guys are put under.
Yeah, I mean, experience is the best teacher, and no one can experience having that much money when you go into a second contract. Like our entire life, man, you live in front of a screen. Everyone tells you what you're good at, what you're not good at, and you try and figure out what you're really good at, right? And when you figure that out and you get to earn another contract, like you have so many more eyes on you and people telling you if you're doing well or living up to the expectation. At the end of the day, it's all fugazi. It's this label that you have to live up to this certain being because you have a bunch of money. Everyone expects the world of you when you get paid because you've earned that paycheck, and now people want to see even more. Although, like what Bud was alluding to was, he needs to continue to do what got him there, because that's ultimately how he's reaped those rewards. But trying to live in the mindset, because I've never been the big money guy, right? But you live in the world of social media now, where you're under all this scrutiny and all this pressure and this microscope all the time. There's this level of wanting to live up to the hype of the potential of how everybody else sees you, on top of how you see yourself as well. When you think you're performing and you want to get a little nosy and see if people are seeing the same thing or eye to eye about it, and then they're not, it's like, you got to pick your poison on wanting to live in that world mentally or not. Everyone's human, dude. Like Buck, if you were to just get millions of dollars and then you're living on Spotify like everybody seems to be doing these days, there's this pressure of now analyzing or overanalyzing everything you're doing and not realizing that you just need to continue to do what got you there. But with that, there's going to be new eyes and new audiences that are now looking at you that have no context in where you are, what you came from, what you're about. So you're just going to have a different level of judgment all the time. That's usually how it works. Like us with Bussin', you get new audiences, new people listening to you that might think you're just some arrogant pricks that are doing something because we're all about, for the boys, this, that, and the other, that have zero clue how you started, how you got there. It's the same with you getting on the radio. You get new eyes, new expectations. It's just the world we live in.
You think a bunch of Spotify money would change me if I get like a Joe Rogan contract? You think I'd be unbearable?
I don't think you would be unbearable. I think you would start wondering all these new people that are now accessible to you out there in the world, the internet, the media, who want to tear you down because you are actually where they would like to be. And then they now have ways to jab at you when they know nothing about you except that you're now on Spotify. I think you being a human being, you would continue to live in the space of like, I wonder how this is all working out. You start seeing a little bit of hate then where you're just like, what is going on here? That's just how it works. That's the vicious cycle of what goes on. And then it creeps into your brain a little bit of doubt. And just like anybody, dude, it doesn't matter if you make $100 million or, a lower salary, you're still wondering, you still want to be accepted, right? That's just what happens. So I think having mental fortitude, which it sounds like Bud has, you got to create that mental fortitude about yourself that it's just a fairy tale world that you're now living in. You just got to continue to do what you're doing.
Austin_Nash in the comments on Twitch. If you want to interact or maybe send questions for the boy, you can do so every week on Zone TV. Austin Nash says, the boy is speaking the truth. Some people make millions. Some people make memes. Will has done both in his life.
Hey, I love that. Yeah.
You got a little bit of the best of both worlds at that point.
No doubt. But I like, it's all relative, man. I think anytime you can try and take that conversation or that situation and try and paint it for like something going on with you, like where you might be, Buck, like you can wrap your mind around what a guy might be going through. Like we're all the same, living in this spot, trying to figure it out. He just has to be a hell of a pass rusher, recovering from a knee injury, earning a big bag, as people would say. And now he's going to have a lot of eyes on him because everyone wants him to fix a defense that performed not not up to the standard last year. So I respect that he wants to carry that responsibility.
To that same end, he talked a lot.
Not carry that responsibility. He doesn't have that responsibility. You know what I'm trying to say.
No, I understand what you're trying to say. It's okay. I still love you, buddy. It's hard being a professional talker, as Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys is learning. Now, you've just returned from Barstool HQ. I want to ask you about that here in just a second. And, of course, the YouTube episode of today's pod, Bussin' with the Boys, comes out tonight. You can see them sweat through their skin because apparently you guys still haven't figured out the air conditioning situation. So subscribe to the Boys on YouTube to get the video pod later tonight. To that end, though, Will, he spent a lot of time talking about, making sure that he's not just focused on the responsibility that he himself has been given, but helping to elevate the younger guys as well. Clowney and Beasley were a different situation last year, but for a while, Harold Landry has been like the most veteran presence in that outside linebacking group, which is it's a tall task to ask of somebody who's still pretty new in the league, even though he's heading into his fourth season at this point. Dupree, I think there's wisdom there that reminds me of Wesley Woodyard, of Brian Arakpo, of Derek Morgan, guys, veterans who had been in the league for a long time, who understand the rigors of this. He's coming into a different situation, a different locker room, but he has emphasized the idea of trying to elevate those around him and help the younger guys. Rashad Weaver is one that he has said he spent time with particularly. How big an impact can that have on a younger player, given that you yourself, an undrafted rookie free agent coming into the league, it's tough to make it. You're figuring out things on the practice squad as well. You're trying to find a way to sustain. How big an impact can those guys have positively or, on the other hand, negatively? Because I feel like it can go both ways.
Oh, brother, it is a huge impact when you have good veteran presence in the locker room. I know when I was a rookie, you come in and your head is just spinning, or you're a young guy and you don't know where to go, right? The head coach, the coaches are all preaching all the stuff, right? That kind of has your ass tight. You don't know, you're just walking down the hall trying to find your way. And when you have vets that have been in a culture and understand a winning culture, like a Bud Dupree, who's been with the Steelers and understand, it always seems like they have a good culture going on over there with Mike Tomlin. But having somebody like that to show you the ropes, and even Harold now, he's going into his fourth year. Having those guys showing you the way and being around a good environment pays dividends, because they're just showing you things that a coach just can't show you or tell you. Like, coaches can play, they can preach it all day long, but the guys who are going through it with you and taking you, showing you the ropes, telling you the ins and outs of the league, how it works. Hey, keep going this way. Coaches being hard on you because of the X, Y, Z, because you stress yourself out so much being in the NFL now. It does wonders for you as a young guy. And it can also be very detrimental when you have guys who don't want to, help you out or bring you along, or just kind of leave you on your own. You just live in your own headspace, man. And when you live in your own headspace, you can get in your way, and it can be detrimental because you take everything so hard, and you don't have somebody there who's been there that is able to put their arm around you and let you know it's all going to be all right. Here's how it works. And here's how you make it in the league.
What is I know it's a case by case basis. Everybody is different, but what is the more difficult hurdle to overcome in the NFL, in your opinion? Is it the mental or is it the physical?
I think it's mental. I think, you got your unicorns, right? You got your top 5%, 10%, 1%, whatever the case may be. You got guys who are just, who are just going to be in a league of their own at all times. But the majority of the league, the 90%, everyone plays around the same level. Yes, there's guys who have edges over in other areas, but for the most part, everyone is in a pack. And how you separate yourself, man, is how you can handle this thing mentally, because you're not in college anymore. You don't have that structure where, your student advisors telling you what class to go to. Your coach is telling you when to show up, how to show up. Here's how we do it. Here's how you fall in line. You're a freshman. You're a sophomore. Here's your dorm room. Here's where you eat. You don't have that anymore, man. And when you're in the league, you got to figure out how to be a grown-ass adult. And so I think the mental side is what separates you, because you live in a world where everything's under a microscope. There's that much more pressure. And if you, again, I said mental fortitude earlier, but if you don't have that, those are the things, the mental side of it, the mental game, the mental approach to all of it, that is kind of what separates guys and keeps guys in the league, because when you fold and you're mentally weak and you just can't take it and you need your hand held a little bit more, when you're a lower round draft pick or when you're on that end of the spectrum, you're not going to last long.
He is Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys. New episode out this morning. Go subscribe, rate, review. Check out the podcast. It's a great time. And the YouTube, which will debut tonight at 6 p.m. Central Time. William, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate your time. Go enjoy the rest of your day because you've already had a 6 a.m. flight, a workout, and I'm certain that there is more content to be produced.
For sure, and also brought to you by All American Pest Control. I can't wait to get that stuff set up in my house.
Oh, look at you. You're such a gem. He's a pro at this point. Will Compton, get the hell off my system.
See you, boss.
See you, buddy. Okay. We will come back. We will wrap up the show. We will do some poll questions because it is time. Well, it is almost time for me to head out to Titans mandatory minicamp to do some reporting for you all to relay to you the sights, the sounds, the scenes of these Tennessee Titans. All that and more coming up next. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Everything Titans. Your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
What I'll say, and we'll spend more time on this tomorrow after I've been able to observe this final day of minicamp more sincerely. But tomorrow I want to kind of get into a little bit of a post-mortem, for lack of a better term, on the Titans offseason, because I think this one has been really, really interesting in retrospect, given all of the things that have transpired as we work our way back to normalcy. It'll be an interesting conversation, and we hope you'll join us for that then. But in the meantime, let's do some polls.
I don't know who you are, but I know what it's time for. A poll update on the Buck Rising Show. Here's a young man with a very particular set of skills. With the final numbers, here's Buck Rising Show correspondent and producer, Lucas Panzica.
What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Billy Murphy says people thinking Derrick Henry got snubbed for Madden cover when Brady just won his 7th ring and gets to have fun now that he's in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll know who's on the Madden cover by the time the show starts tomorrow. That's supposed to be announced. Well, JMart and Ramon are on the air at 9 a.m. Central Time, so they'll get first crack at it. Shafe as well. And then we'll be able to determine whether or not Tom Brady has yet again pulled the wool all over our eyes with trolling on the internet with these pictures of Mahomes and him at a high school practice field and the baby goats in the barn that EA put out as a part of the Madden teaser. I don't think it's going to be Henry. I think it should be Henry. I think it's smart marketing to make it Henry. Am I going to be bent out of shape about it if it's not Henry when we start the show tomorrow? No.
Is it smart marketing to make it Henry for Madden?
Hell yeah.
Or is it smarter marketing to make it Brady or Mahomes for Madden?
I don't think it matters. Like, if we were selling, like, straight-up hardcovers of video games that people collect, and maybe people are still doing that, so I can't completely discount it. And maybe they're making, like, NFTs, like that they're selling NFTs digitally with Madden covers. But, yeah, if you're going to take advantage of a spectacular feat, one of only 8 people in the history of the sport that have rushed for 2,000 yards, and he happens to be 22 in the year of Madden NFL 22, yeah, I think it's good marketing.
Yeah, we've probably already talked too much about it. I agree. I don't think people really care about the cover that much anymore.
You brought it
up. John says the fact that MLB keeps changing or enforcing the rules to try to bring fans in. It's like, just take it back to basics. We see people are still interested in the sport. Just look at the NCAA playoffs starting this week.
I'm conflicted about baseball because there's all kinds of scandal going on in baseball right now. Lucas, we haven't touched it at all with the spider tack and the adhesives that people are using, suntan lotion, rosin, all manner of goop to improve control on the pitching that has made the sport damn near unwatchable because people don't score, people don't hit. But yeah, there's a lot of dumb things happening in baseball. Just this Rob Manfred just appears to be generally dumb, bad at his job.
Are Nashville drivers the 14th best in the country? 72% say no, but 28% say no.
Yeah, they're bad. By consensus. We can all agree. 14. Like I said earlier in the show, if Nashville has the 14th best drivers, the rest of the country is a hellscape.
Who are you most excited for the Titans to get back? Taylor Lewan, A.J. Brown, or Bud Dupree? Pretty even across the board here. 36% say Bud Dupree, 32% each for Lewan and Brown.
Ooh, that's pretty good parity. Yeah, you haven't seen Bud Dupree yet. That's the biggest issue on your roster. You want to see how close he is or how much he's going to be able to correct it, even though you're not going to be able to tell until he gets actually on a football field. But that would be my answer too, because I liked what I heard from him yesterday. And if you missed any of that conversation that we had around Bud Dupree, it's the Buck Rising Show in your favorite podcast app.
Did you watch Kevin Durant's performance last night? Yes or no? 66% say no.
Yeah, I mean, this is the constant struggle. I want to talk about the NBA. Nobody in Nashville watches the NBA. And so we'll continue to all I'll tell you is that the Bucks could have done a better job defending him, but it was really a great performance.
What's more difficult for professional athletes, mental or physical health? 68% say mental.
We had a good conversation with this or about this with Will Compton, and something that I think people take for granted, how much of the game taxes you mentally as opposed to physically, the wear and tear on your body. But without question, I think for me, at least, having not been a professional athlete, it's mental. And those are the polls for the day. So we will continue the conversation about Titans mandatory minicamp. We'll put a bow on their offseason. We'll do all of that and more tomorrow when Mike Vrabel, head coach of the Tennessee Titans, joins us before he gets the hell out of here on vacation, before everybody takes some much-needed time. That'll be a lot of fun. We look forward to having you as a part of the proceedings. And we will be out on remote, by the way. I'm leaving Lucas behind. I'll be out at Care Supply Co., we'll be talking some NASCAR, too, as well. Look forward to that conversation because, of course, Nashville Speedway back in full effect this weekend. Enjoy Blaine and Mickey. I'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Coming up today on the 3HL.
It's day 2 and the final day of Titans mandatory mini camp. Coach Mack is going to join us and gets us started to talk about the Titans. Austin Huff of Corked Bats will join us at 3:45, and then U.S. Open gambling odds. Todd Furman has you covered.
Today, starting at 3 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.